Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Christine Hull, and I'm the founder of the MAWB, the Mississauga and Area Women in Business. And today I'm delighted to have Veronica joining us and sharing, not just because she's an amazing entrepreneur and helps a lot of women get out of their way, but because Veronica was supposed to be one of our speakers at our MAWB retreat. Veronica was going to present something of the same nature, and unfortunately, as you may know, and I'm looking around the room right here, the Zoom room that is, and I see probably all but two of you were actually attending the event. So here we are, we're having a little reminiscent time without having the opportunity to go there this year. So again, thanks so much, Veronica, for joining us. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction as to who Veronica is, some of the things she does, because she's a busy lady. She's a women's transformation strategist. She's CEO and founder of Empowered Solutions. Her presentations, her workshops, group coaching, and one-on-one programs focus on female empowerment, helping her clients to get clear, grounded, and focused on creating success as entrepreneurs and women in business. Veronica's workshop, the one we're going to be hearing today, or a part of it, 7 power tips to help you get out of your own way, will provide us with a thrilling personal journey of self-discovery, growth, and empowerment on how to sustain that mindset muscle in order to consistently support our efforts for success as leaders, as entrepreneurs, and as women in business. And I want to just go back to one thing that jumps out at me here. It's the mindset muscle. And it's so important that we remember that. And I'm sure she's going to talk lots about it. But mindset isn't something you do once in a while. It's something you do all the time, and something you have to keep powered up. So thank you again, Veronica, for joining us today. We're so excited to have you here. I'd love for you to now go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself, if you wouldn't mind doing that. And then we'll go ahead and get started with the presentation. I'm just going to ask you to unmute, or I'll unmute you. Oh, there we go. You're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a fun-loving cat, dog, nature lover. Who loves jazz and who loves film noir movies, and I live in Brampton. That's the essence of who I am. But I've been in the helping business for, dare I say it, 30 years, let's say over 20 years, okay? 30 really dates me. And I've been a family therapist, trauma counselor, NLP practitioner, life relationship coach. I've done it all in terms of working with people. But for the past 7 years, I've been working in the area of women's empowerment, helping female entrepreneurs to really manage their stress in their interpersonal relationships so they can get clear, and grounded and focused on putting their energies back into their business where it belongs. And as Christine has said, I do that through workshops, presentations, one-to-one group coaching. As well, I've just started launching online courses as well. And I do have a book that's going to be published, fingers, toes crossed, by the end of this year. State of Play, how we have those difficult conversations when people cross our boundaries without getting angry. So that's me in a nutshell. But I just want to say that I am passionate about women's empowerment. I'm passionate about women's empowerment because when I see women standing in their power, it generates energy back to me. I get my empowerment from that. And those victim stories that I see on the TV about women this, women being oppressed and women being victimized, I want to be a part of the narrative that changes that, because women are for me anyway, an untapped resource that's not being used. And the trickle-down effect is just so far-reaching. So that's my enthusiasm. Is really working with women in the area of empowerment and helping women to stand in their power. Women empower themselves. I just cheerlead, coach, give people a kick in the butt, support, validate. That's all I do, because women empower themselves. And that, in a nutshell, is me. If you want to find out more about me, then go over on my website, www.empowered-solutions.ca, or even just Google my name and my workshop, my website will come up.
That's awesome. Thank you. Your toolkit is vast and varied, and we learned an extra layer of all of the additional work you've done. That's amazing. And if I might say, you just celebrated a birthday, so happy birthday to you,
I know.
Happy birthday. You look fabulous.
I was shocked when I saw how old I was. That's not me.
Is it you who wrote in your post, I had to look at my driver's license to see how old I was? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. My mother's 92, so.
You got 30 more to go, babe. Like your career. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and I will make you the host, Veronica, and you should see something pop up on your screen, perhaps about accepting, and then you should be able to share your...
Yes, you are the host now, so what do I do?
So down on the bottom, you're going to see a toolbar that has buttons, and one of them is called Share Screen.
Yeah, I got that. Okay,
Perfect.
There we go.
Go ahead and click on that, and then it'll pop up. Oh, there you go.
Oh, so why am I not?
So what you...
Oh, there you go.
Fabulous.
So on the wrong slide.
Listen, our intentions worked this morning, Veronica.
Yes. So, all right. So I'm going to be talking about 7 power tips to help you get out of your own way. And yes, I am that old, so I do need to use notes. So periodically you're going to see me looking at my notes, and I'll just put that out there. But that's just the nature of the beast. All right. So, have you ever found yourself, you're setting up goals but you just can't achieve them. And when you stop and take a look and see what's going on, you realize that you are the one, you're doing things to directly undermine your success. I mean, can anybody relate to that? That, your behavior, your actions are getting in the way of your intentions, your dreams, your goals. You're the one that's shooting yourself in the foot. You're getting in your own way. So, you can acknowledge that quietly to yourself. You don't have to say yes out there. But if you can relate to that, then this is a presentation that I hope will be beneficial to you. We're going to talk about the 7 ways that we can sabotage yourself, but I'm also going to give you some ideas in terms of how to turn that around. And if you're willing to join me, it's a presentation of self-reflection, and hopefully it'll give you some insight into what you do and give you some perspective in terms of your actions and some ways that you can change that. Oh, why am I jumping? So I've told you who I am. I'm not going to go back to that, but just to let you know that I'm a women's transformation strategist and ninja stress busting warrior. And I've explained all of that as to what that is. So what do we mean by self-sabotage? What do we mean by you getting in your own way? Well, very simply, self-sabotage is where your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, that's your mind, are at odds with each other. They're working against each other. So what is your let's just talk a little bit about your conscious mind. Your conscious mind, it's the root of your objective thinking. It has no memory. You can only hold one thought at a time, and it's where all of your senses are located in your conscious mind, your sight, your hearing, your feeling, your touch, etc. Your conscious mind, you only think in yes or no terms. And as I said, you can only hold on to one thing at a time. So your conscious mind is the way that you interface with the world. It takes in all the information in the world. So what is your subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind is the place where you hold your identity, your beliefs, your habits, your motives, your emotions. It's your data bank for everything which is not your conscious mind. So it stores your past, your memories, all of your skills, and everything you've done or thought is also there. And it usually works in the background on automatic pilot. But that's where the power is. And it's the one tip that I can offer you today is work and befriend your subconscious mind. If you want to be successful, if you want to stop sabotaging your success, work and befriend your subconscious mind. Now, there are different stats on this. Some people say 90% of your subconscious, of your programming is your subconscious mind. Other people say 95% of your programming is within your subconscious mind. But the point that's being made here is that your subconscious mind is far more powerful than your conscious mind, and that's where you need to work if you want to be successful. It is 1,000,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And a quote from T. Harv Eker, he says this: if your subconscious blueprint is not set for success, then nothing you learn or do will make a difference. If you program your energies on the subconscious level, you are far more likely to succeed. So work with your subconscious mind. It is the most powerful tool that we have at our disposal. And so how do you do that is something that you might be asking. Well, your subconscious mind, working in the area of your subconscious mind, it's easy and it's fun, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lot of work. So some of the things that you can do, of course, journaling, chanting, dancing, emotional energy tapping, Reiki, EMDR, acupuncture, affirmations, hypnosis, meditation, visualization. All of those things are fun things and they are empowering things, and they don't necessarily have to take up a lot of time. Hypnosis and meditation is something that you can do while you're sleeping. So working with the subconscious mind, did I skip on to another slide, is our tip number 1. Tip number 2 is your inner critical voice. We all have an inner critical voice that can run amok if we are not aware of it operating. And why are my slides jumping so fast? Okay. Let's go back to the, okay. And it's like a bully within. And I did a course on that. It's called The Bully Within, Master Your Inner Critic. So if you want more information on your inner critic, you can access that course on Udemy. It's pittance. It's like $12, whatever. But anyway, so mastering your inner critical voice, because it's there in the background, and sometimes we're not even aware of how. It's not even what we're saying to ourselves. It's the tone. It's the language in terms of how we are speaking to ourselves. And there's a lot of information out there that talks about you've got to master your inner critic. It's the enemy within. You know, it's you've got to overcome it. You've got to conquer it. It's, you know, people see it when they talk about their critical voice or their inner critic. They usually talk about it in black or white terms. It's good or bad. It's evil, and it's an enemy. And I don't see. I mean, the research that I've done on this has led me to believe that we need to befriend that inner critical voice. We need to see it more as a pesky, irritable, annoying character that gets in our way, And when we see it in that way, we take away the power from it. And so, you know, the inner critic, yes, we do have to get a handle on it. But if you can see it as an annoying little gnat that, you know, shows up, if you can befriend it, if you can turn it into a character, if you can give it a silly name. So my inner critic is Tricky Ricky, and she is slicky because she creeps up on me, and she's like a radio, transistor radio, or sometimes I call her a transistor resistor. She's like a transistor radio that's playing low grade in the background. And when I'm stressed and when I'm overwhelmed, somehow my Tricky Ricky tends to kind of jump in. So, and when I notice that, I kind of, I see you, and I can dial it down. So we don't have to fight with our inner critic. And if we're doing that, we're actually fighting with ourselves. Okay. So the second tip is really being aware of your inner critic, and really learning how to work with your inner critical voice in a way that is supportive to you and isn't undermining you, isn't putting you down, you're not in conflict with yourself when you work with your inner critic in that way. So that's tip number 2. And feel free if you need some clarification on something, feel free to ask a question. Okay. So one of the things that I think it's important to do when it comes to the inner critic is to have a number of success tools in your back pocket, different things that work. A stop, pause, reboot kind of strategy, ways to reprogram your self-talk, but have many, many, many tools in your back pocket so that you can be in charge as opposed to your inner critic being in charge of you. And as I said, I do have some fun exercises in the online course, The Bully Within. You can check that out if you want to. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, we're just barreling through here, is identify and deal with your fears. And there are so many of them. Fear of change, fear of failure, fear of success, fear that you don't know enough, fear of the unknown, fear of taking risks, fear of disappointing others, fear of being wrong, fear that you're not good enough. I mean, you could go on and on and on and on and on when you're talking about your fears. And what are fears? False evidence appearing real. It's the narrative, the story that we tell ourselves about a given subject, a given goal, whatever. It's the story that we have in our heads.
Veronica.
So, yeah.
So you mentioned a whole bunch of fears. What if I feel fearful but have no idea how to identify what that fear is, thus don't know how to address it and overcome it? How does one identify that they're afraid?
One of the most powerful tools I think that we can use is journaling, is to write about it. I'm fearful, just sit down with yourself in a park, sit down with yourself in the garden, sit down with yourself with a glass of wine, with a cup of tea, and just brain dump about where you're at, what's going on in your life. Even if you don't use journaling as an everyday practice, write yourself a letter, write to your higher power, and just kind of brain dump in terms of what's going on with yourself. And that way, you'll be in touch a little bit in terms of how you're feeling, and something will come up. And you may have to do that a couple times to kind of get in touch with what's going on with you. And the other thing that you can do, of course, is doing some meditation, just quieting your mind and just relaxing and working with your breathing and getting into yourself to kind of figure out. And it's not about identifying your fear, it's more of figuring out what's going on with you. And so if you figure out what's going on with you, you may be able to zoom in on the fact that it is a fear, okay? But you're not gonna, you don't necessarily go seeking out, what is my fear? All right, so my slides are jumping, but anyway. All right, so there was a book out, and it's about 20 years old now, and it's called Feel the Fear, Do It Anyway, with Susan Jeffers. And if it's a book that you haven't read, read it. It's a very powerful book. And she really talks about, you just got to push through it. You know, yes, you have fear, but the confidence that you are going to get from doing that which you fear is far more powerful than staying stuck in the fear. So you push through it. You understand that you have fear, but so in terms of entrepreneurship, I mean, it's fearful all the time, you know? It's like sometimes you're a trapeze artist. You've got to do something and you don't have the skills, you don't have the tools, but you've got to take that risk and you've got to leap, you've got to take that jump. But the thing about entrepreneurship is, if we understand that we can get the tools, we can get the skills on the way, that we can learn as we go, then, you know, we can push through that fear and not stay stuck in it. But here's a little tip that I use when I'm feeling fearful. You know, think of yourself driving on a bus. I'm British, so I think in terms of double-decker buses. So think of yourself as being on a double-decker bus, and you're sitting upstairs and you're really on your own, and it's, you know, you're in your own thoughts, and it's a mundane trip because you're just there with yourself. But then somebody comes to sit beside you, and that person engages with you in terms of a conversation. And, you know, maybe you start laughing, maybe you start joking, maybe you get some insight into something. You're engaging with something else. And that's what I think we can do with our fear. And that's what I've tried to do with my own fears, is to, yes, be aware that I'm fearful about something, but, you know, I bring another feeling beside me. So what difference, so ask yourself this question: what difference would it make if you have your fear, what difference would it make if you brought on another feeling to sit beside you while you're going through that fear? So courage, hope, faith, excitement, curiosity, any kind of emotion, dare, risk, whatever, but you bring another emotion beside you alongside that fear. And so the question that I throw out to you is, would it make a difference? Would it soften the edges of the fear? Would it change the shape of the fear? Would it make you see things a little bit differently? So I would encourage you that to try that as an exercise when you're feeling fearful about something, here we go again, we jumped again, to bring another emotion along beside you. All right, so my presentation really wants to move on. The next tip is habits. What are habits? They are the choices that we make and then forget. So your habit, it's acquired behavior that you have regulated and you follow until it becomes almost involuntary. So your habits are things that you're doing, but you don't necessarily think about. They're there, and you're not necessarily, they're on automatic pilot, and you don't necessarily think about them. I'm jumping again. So let's go back. So how do we re-engineer our habits? Well, take a look at the definition. Choices we make and then forget about. Things that we do that are on autopilot. And so how we re-engineer our habits is we have to bring them, what the behavior that we are concerned about, we have to bring it back into conscious awareness. Yeah, so bringing your habits back into conscious awareness is really the place to start. And how do you do that? Well, you've got to do, and this is where journaling comes in. You've got to do some intel research, observation of yourself in terms of that particular behavior. So one of the habits that I'm working on right now is increasing and boosting my intake of water because I wasn't drinking enough. And so you need to do your research, the what, the where, the how, the when, knowing the triggers, knowing everything that you can about that particular habit, especially if it's a negative one and if it's a habit that you want to change. So if you do your intel and your research, you're going to have a lot of powerful information. And that information is going to highlight for you what are the things that you need to do to change that habit and to turn it around. So I cannot underestimate the power of doing research and intelligence on yourself and your behavior, documenting, making notes, stepping outside of yourself and observing what you do. And you're doing this without criticism and without judgment. You're not judging what you're doing, you're just observing what you're doing. And it's a very powerful way of changing. It's a start in any way, in terms of turning around, shifting, and changing your habits. All right, so that was tip number 4. Our little bar there is covering up our tips, but that was tip number 4. Let's move on to tip number 5, self-care. Now, self-care, I think, is one of those terms that it's a cliche now. Everybody talks about self-care. But what exactly is it? It's being aware of your needs and addressing them. And it's filling your own jug, which is what I'm going to do right now. Filling your own jug first before you give to others. And we as women, it's jumped again, we as women need, this is something that we as women need to learn. And that is to really take care of ourselves, fill our jug. Why does it keep doing that? Okay. Do you know how I can stop it from jumping ahead?
I'm not really sure why it's jumping ahead, Veronica. I'm just wondering if, what are you using, Google Slides or PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
Okay. And so are you using a mouse? Could you be
Yes, I am.
Too much?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe you want to just move the mouse away and maybe use your arrow keys on your keyboard. I have a feeling that the mouse is just keep zooming you forward.
Okay. Anyway, so we're talking about self-care, and it's filling your jug first before you give to other people, and not allowing that jug to go empty, because when we fill our jug, okay, and putting in the things that are important to us, we can give as much or as little to the people in our lives, as much as we want or as little. But if that jug is empty and we're giving, the question is, what exactly are you giving? You're giving nothing. You think you're giving something, you think that you're doing, but you're giving nothing because your jug is empty. And now you are taking from your inner resources. And that is where our resentment comes in. That's where anger, frustration comes in. That's where depression comes in, because we're doing too much. And as women of a certain age, you know, we tend to be juggling. You know, we want to start a new business where, you know, we've got a house, we've got a husband, we've got kids, you know, and we've got parents and we've got in-laws, and everybody's taking from us. And so we have to know how to monitor that and take care of that, and how to set some limits and boundaries. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But here are some questions that you can ask yourself right now in terms of your own self-care. And it says, on a scale of 1 to 10, answer these following questions. Where right now would you place your energy on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 is low and 10 is high, okay? How inspired are you feeling? Again, on a scale of 1 to 10. Fun and play. Do you have fun? Do you have laughter? Do you have play in your life? Where on that scale, how would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10? And here's an important one that I think we don't really pay a lot of attention to, and that is peace and quiet. Do you have peace and quiet in your life? And why is that important? Because it's the parasympathetic nervous system. Do we know, can we soothe ourselves very quickly? Can we be calm very quickly? So, you know, where do you have peace and quiet in your life? Rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. The next one is friendships and relationships. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself in that particular area? And of course, physical health. How would you rate your physical health on a scale of 1 to 10? And of course, your feelings and your emotions. How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10? And I know right now with the pandemic, everybody's kind of struggling with mental health, and with all the, you know, the Black Lives Matter and all the things that we're seeing on TV and Donald Trump and his craziness. We're all getting agitated, okay? And so how, where would you rate your mental health, your feelings, your emotional well-being? How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10? And so here's the question. If you're not satisfied with where you are, what do you need to do to change the score? Okay, that is tip number 5. So let's move on. All right, tip number 6. You cannot talk about self-care without talking about boundaries. Personal boundaries are the limits that we set for ourselves within our relationships. A person who has healthy boundaries, and that's something that we as women have to learn, because we're raised to be givers and nurturers, and people expect it of us. And sometimes we really have to learn how to say no. No, we're not coming for dinner this Christmas. I'm sorry, I have to say no. No, I just can't do that. And to be able to say no, again, standing in your power, without feeling that you have to justify what you're saying. And here's the thing, when we have been doing and giving to people in a certain way, and now we pull back and we say, no, I can't do that anymore, you're going to get pushback. okay, from people. And you just have to understand that people are used to you doing for them. And when you say, no, I can't, there's going to be a little pushback. And just understand that that's a natural, normal thing to happen. But people with healthy boundaries, they know who they are, they know what they stand for, and they're able to stand in their power and assert themselves respectfully with others. So this is not saying no and, you know, talk to the hand kind of thing. You can say no in a quiet way, and you might find that people are going to push you. So you may have to say no 2 or 3 times before people actually hear you. But when you have boundaries and you stand in your power, you know that you can't be manipulated, and you don't struggle with guilt, and you don't feel responsible for other people's emotions. And you allow people to fail. So, and let them deal with the consequences of you not bailing them out. So those of you who have kids and those of you who have teenagers, maybe you put some responsibility back onto them and not be over responsible for them. So they've got a project that they need to get done and they're not doing it. Do you have to be on their case for them to do it, or do they need to take responsibility and deal with the consequences of their actions if they don't do it? So really know where you end and where they begin, because there's a lot of do for kind of things that we do as women when we really need other people to do it for themselves. So we've jumped again, and we're now on the final tip number 7, which is know your why. Every single goal that you have, every single thing that you want to achieve, what is the why behind it? What are the principles? What are the beliefs? What are the values behind it? If you don't know that, then, when you fall off that horse, you're going to stay down. You want to be able to get back on that horse quickly. And if you know what your values are, if you know what you believe in, if you know your why you want to accomplish this thing, then you're going to get back on that horse. You're going to get back up very quickly. So knowing your why is the tool that will not let you back down from what you know you were destined to do. You have a purpose. So one of my whys is the empowerment of women. I thrive on it. It energizes me. So I know that's my why in terms of why I work more specifically in the area of female empowerment, because it just jazzes me when I see a woman who is empowered and standing in her power and putting herself out there. So as I said, knowing your why connects you to your values. Knowing your values will not let you withdraw or pull the plug on or throw in the towel in terms of your goal, what you want, your destination. Knowing your why is going to push you on a deeper level. So that is tip number 7. And stop sabotaging your success. Let's kind of summarize. So you need to get brutally real clear in which ways you're self-sabotaging. And how do you do this? Take a look at your thoughts, your belief, your self-talk, your actions. Is there a pattern to what you do? So, you want to take a look at that. And you want to take a look at which of your behaviors you want to work on the most significant. Which behavior, if you were to work on it right now, would give you the biggest bang for your buck. Pick one. I mean, there are so many ways that I can self-sabotage myself, but I don't need to overwhelm myself by trying to work on everything. Pick one. So as I said before, the one thing I'm working on right now is increasing my intake of water. And I could do a lot of other things, work on my exercise, work on, cutting back my carbs, etc. But the one thing that I'm working on right now is increasing my intake of water, zeroing in on that and working on that. And as you know, some people say it takes 21 days to change a habit. Some people say it's 66. I go with 21. If I can 21 days in a row pay attention to the amount of water that I'm drinking, that's going to turn it around. And so, yeah, what new action will you take that will change that sabotaging behavior? So with me and my water drinking, I'm afraid that I'm polluting the earth, but I can do it for the next 21 days. I'm the one that's driving around with bottles of water in my car, bottles of water in my home. And the reason why I'm using bottles of water is it's easier for me to track how much water intake I've had that day. So I know whether I've drunk 4 bottles of water, whether I've drunk 6 bottles of water, and I can, tick that off on my checklist. So, what new action, be aware of what is the new action that you need to take in terms of turning that sabotaging behavior around. Who can you talk to about your behavior? One of the things that I like with MAWB is we can get accountability partners. We can be accountable with each other. I know a couple of years ago, I was struggling with getting to bed at a decent hour. And I found somebody who was having the same struggle as myself. We'd call each other at 2 o'clock at night, and we were still up, and we made a plan together to that we would be accountability partners, that we would set a target to be in bed before 12, and we would check in on each other in terms of how that would work. And for the most part, we were able to turn that behavior around, to get a decent amount of sleep by getting to bed at a decent time. So accountability partners are very good for that. What other information can you gather about your problem, about how to change, about habits, about motivation? What blogs are out there? What podcasts are out there? What books are out there? TED Talks, YouTube videos. Gather as much information and knowledge that's going to help you in terms of turning around that behavior, or staying motivated, or understanding habits. Get more information. Okay. And of course, consider speaking to a therapist or a coach. They can also hold you accountable, but they can help you with a plan. They can help you with resources. They can help you, provide you with support, validation, cheerlead you, give you the kick in the butt that you need. All those things you can get. And, with a therapist, of course, if there's a deeper issue pertaining to your sabotaging, maybe it's related to trauma of some sort, they can help you go deeper on that issue. Okay. And sometimes, we just need to talk things out. That's it. We just need to talk. And that can help to gain some perspective. If you want more information, I do have an online course, Unstoppable, Finding Your Greatness Within. It's up on Udemy. And if you're interested in going deeper in your fears, understanding habits on a deeper level, understanding values on a deeper level, you can access that course. Now, Udemy messes around with the price of the course. I do have coupons that you can get the course on sale. And if you want to access that course and get it on sale, direct message me and I will give you a coupon. So yeah, these are just some of the coping strategies that I use, that I feel have helped me over time. And I hope that they can help you in some way. And so what are they? Take the time to pause, reflect on how you sabotage yourself, get out of your, and how you get out, identify your root causes that are, start working on your, at the subconscious level, master your inner critic, that inner bullying voice that can lead you astray. Address your fears, because it's just false evidence that's appearing real. Learn how to make yourself a priority by addressing your self-care. Establish firm, strong boundaries. Understand your values and the why behind what it is that you really want for yourself and your future. So be confident in your intentions, have faith in what you are doing so that you can be in control of your life and get out of your own way and banish your self-sabotaging behavior for good. So if you want to ask me questions, feel free to do so. That is the end of my presentation. And let me get out of this and get back here. No, stop the share. Stop share. Okay, I'm back.
Great, thank you. I'm also just going to take back the host role. So who has questions for Veronica?
It's a lot of information, yeah, it's a lot of information to digest. But yeah.
I'm just going through the chat box right now. I'm very chatty, so as you were saying things, I drop in comments there. So I'm just looking past my comments to see if there are any questions. Xanthi wrote, I have a fear, I have identified it and have had several people try to help me get through it using energy work and hypnosis, but it's a stubborn fear because of history. What can I do about something like that?
It sounds as if your fear is connected to a trauma of some sort, and it might be good for you to sit down with somebody to really kind of work through what's the root cause of that fear. What is that connected to? You know, did something happen in your childhood? You know, what is the message that's being recycled, being repeated? I like what you're doing, the energy tapping. Keep doing that. And maybe you need to be tapping more on the right thing. And I'm not sure exactly, you know, you can't just tap on fear. You have to tap on the story of the fear. And you might need to do more energy tapping, because that is actually very powerful, and some hypnosis. But yeah, you're doing the right thing. Working on your fear at a subconscious level is going to be you're going to reap the results of that.
Great. So I was looking around while you were answering, and I see that she may have had to go off the call. So I'll let her know to come back to the recording for your response and then maybe follow up with you. Mm-hmm. Someone else commented, I want to know how to get rid of the guilt.
Well, here's the thing. Guilt is a useless emotion. It serves no purpose except to keep you stuck. Okay, so, you know, you have to begin to see guilt in a different way. It serves you no purpose. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. So maybe one of the things that you might want to do is bypass guilt and kind of just look at what are you not doing as a result of this guilt.
And Veronica, you don't know my mother. She has guilt down to an art.
Oh, well, you don't know my mother. She lives in the Caribbean and I live here.
Yeah, guilt has no boundaries.
Yeah, do you know my mother? No filter. It just comes out. Negative. But so what, if we're talking specifically about a mother-daughter thing, the question is, who are you in relationship to your mother? Are you still a little girl in relationship to her? Is your relationship like this? So your mother's here and you're here. Well, you know, at a certain age, that relationship should begin to change. And at some points, my mother's 92 now, I'm actually a mother to her because, you know, she's a bit shaky and so forth. So the question is, who are you to, if we're talking about guilt in terms of relationship to your mother, who are you in relationship to her? And are you willing to let go of the position that you are in relationship to her? What's keeping you stuck there? And so that may have so that may be the issue under the guilt. But let's just, everybody on this call, embrace the notion that guilt is a useless emotion. We don't have any time for it. We're not going to embrace it. And we just, it's just not going to be a part of how we function.
I'm happy to chuck it out the window.
Yes, trample on it.
I think the older we get, or pardon me, the older I get, the more I realize, like, I'm sorry, screw you. If I, like, you were talking about boundaries earlier, and you were talking about saying no. And yes, there's a diplomatic, polite way of saying it. I've switched from the no to, yeah, that's not going to work right now. How about a month from now? Because what I find is that serving so many people leaves my cup severely empty.
Absolutely.
And then the people who pay for my empty cup are my children, because then I don't have the patience or the time for them, which is so unfair. So I've just really this year been working on that. Yeah, it's not a great time, but I love the idea. Fantastic idea, but not quite the right timing.
Or you can just say simple things like, you know what, let me sleep on that, you know, and I'll get back to you on that. So you're just creating a little bit of space between you, because you don't have to answer right there and then. Understand that, you know, you don't have to answer right there and then. You can say, you know, and nobody can stop you from saying, you know what, I need to sleep on it. I need to think about that. You know, we don't have to respond just like that. So
we don't have to give a reason either, right?
No, you don't have to justify anything. And here's the thing, there's a book, when I started doing boundary work, and this is many years ago, there was a book and it was written by a man. His name was Emmanuel something, I forgot. I think it's Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, or When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. One of those two books. And you may have to be a broken record. No, I can't do that. No. Excuse me, but I've said no 3 times. What are you not hearing? The answer is no. So you may have to be a broken record, because people can be very pushy when it comes to getting their needs met. And especially when you've been the one that has always met their needs. Okay? Kids are very good at that. Learn from kids. They know how to get their needs met. Mom, and they're broken records.
Okay, I'm just looking through this list and someone says, worry is a big problem for me.
Okay. So that's all about your self-talk, isn't it? Right? What you're running a narrative. You have a running narrative or story that's going on in your head that you are fueling with whatever. So, you know, breathing, you know, I find here's one of the most powerful tools in the world is empowered breathing. Learn how to empowered breathe. Learn how to breathe empowered. Learn empowered breathing. It's not coming out right. Belly breathing. And sometimes you just need to do that for 2 minutes, and it totally shifts your perspective. Totally shifts your energy. So if you're worrying, it's the dialogue that you have going on in your head. And usually it's not necessarily based on reality. It's based on fear. But, you know, and ask yourself, you know, there are questions that you can ask yourself. Is this real? What I'm saying to myself, is this real? You know, is this thought actually real? Is this actually going to happen? Who would I be without this thought? So, you know, you need to question your worries. as a way of, as a first start for dealing with them. And again, this is where journaling, I cannot underestimate the power of journaling. Because if, you know, it helps you to brain dump, get all of that nonsense on paper. And then you can see the irrationality of your thinking.
Awesome. So last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, in our work sprint, Laura mentioned a tip for all of us, and it was to brain dump. And I'd forgotten how powerful that is, just to get it out of your head. Get it out of your head. So thank you for mentioning it again, and thank you to Laura.
And shifting your energy, because I kind of find that sometimes one of the ways that I deal with my inner critic is I just pivot, shift energy, get out into nature, go for a walk, go visit somebody, do something else, so that my brain, that voice in my brain, I can dial it down. Listening to earth music, you know, the sounds of nature, listening to, for me, it's jazz music. For everybody else, it's something else. It could be classical music. But sometimes, you know, we have to dial down that critical voice and turn into a much more healthier voice, and pivot, do something else, shift your energy, and which is actually very easy to do. You can have a power move that you have. Tony Robbins talks about that, creating a power move that when you do it, it totally shifts your energy. And that's something that you can also do as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Veronica. That was great. I think I've gone through all of the questions. Oh, sorry, one more just came up. But it is after 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save the chat here. Rena has a question. I'm going to save the chat, and maybe the two of you can follow up with one another, or you can follow up with her to answer the questions. I'll save the chat in a text format, and then you can as I said, follow up. So thanks everyone. I know some people are leaving. Could we quickly get a photo? If you would like to participate in the picture, please turn your camera back on and give me a big smile. And what I'll do is I'll say 1, 2, 3, smile, and then you'll know when to do that. I don't want to catch anybody by surprise. So Tovi and Shelly, if you want to join in on the picture, that's cool. And if not, that's okay as well. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, smile. Oh, like that. I should have had you all do. Oh, we should do jazz hands because Veronica loves jazz. Let's do jazz hands. One more just for fun. I, of course, can't do the jazz hands, but we'll get you all. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, jazz hands, jazz hands. Okay, awesome. I love it. Thanks so much. I will send out I'll download the recording, upload it to YouTube. I'll send out the link, and I'll send an email. Veronica, you can take a look in the event as well if anyone has questions in there, and answer those, or follow up with anyone you'd like in whatever fashion you would normally do. We thank you very much for your time and all of the great information, planting those seeds again for us, and for some, just keep that constant reminder of the self-care and what we need to do to keep moving forward on our own path with the positive energy we all need. So thank you so very much.
Toodles.